everyone, welcome. Today, we're diving into something really, really cool. It's a set of notes from a creator named Becky, who came up with this incredible metaphor for understanding our emotions, our boundaries, and how we connect with the world. And it all starts with the physics of waves. So let's just jump right in with the big question that sits at the heart of all this. What if everything that makes you you, your personality, your moods, your deepest feelings, what if all of it could be seen as one complex signal? A unique broadcast made up of a bunch of different frequencies. It's a wild thought, I know, but stick with me because this model gives us a completely new way to talk about emotional health. Okay, so to really get this whole idea, we've got to start with the basics. We need a quick, super simple crash course in how waves actually work. And don't worry, there's no advanced math here, I promise. We just need to get a handle on a couple of core concepts that are going to unlock everything else. First up, frequency. It's pretty simple. If you just picture a wave, going up and down over time, the frequency is just how close together those peaks are. So, a high-frequency wave is really buzzy and fast, packed with energy. And a low-frequency wave is more drawn out, kind of long and slow. Simple enough, right? This is how most of us picture waves in our head. But here's where it gets really interesting. Engineers have a different way of looking at this whole thing. Instead of seeing a big, messy, complicated wave, they use something called the frequency domain. It basically takes that complex signal and breaks it down into its core ingredients, showing them as these simple, clean peaks. So, like, a complicated sound suddenly becomes one peak for the bass, one for the mid-range, and one for the treble. It's just a much, much cleaner way to see what a signal is actually made of. All right, the last little piece of our physics puzzle is something called interference. This is what happens when two waves run into each other. They basically add together. Now, if their peaks line up perfectly with other peaks, they amplify each other. They build each other up into a much bigger, stronger wave. That's called constructive interference. But if one wave's peak hits another wave's valley, they do the opposite. They cancel each other out, making the wave smaller or even flatlining it completely. That's destructive interference. Remember this one. It is absolutely key to where we're going. Okay, so we've got the physics foundation down. Now for the fun part. We get to take all of these ideas and apply them to ourselves. This is where Becky's metaphor really just takes off and translates all of this into the human experience. And here it is, the core idea, straight from the source. Just imagine that each one of us is this incredibly complex combination of signals, a totally unique pattern of frequencies that no one else has. And this is where it gets really deep, right? Think of your personal signal like a one-of-a-kind orchestra playing the music of who you are. Maybe one frequency is the warm, low hum of love. Another could be the sharp, high-pitched note of anger. And maybe another is a repeating behavioral pattern, like a rhythm you always fall into. And this is so important. This entire internal orchestra of yours is protected by a personal boundary that separates your music from all the noise of the outside world. So that brings up a huge question, doesn't it? If we all have this boundary, what happens when it isn't working the way it's supposed to? What happens if it's way too strong or way too weak? Well, the source material lays out two big problem scenarios. On one hand, you can have boundaries that are way too rigid, like a fortress. They trap everything inside, the good stuff and the bad stuff. Any signals coming from other people just bounce right off you. Then you've got the other extreme, basically no boundaries at all. You're like a wide open door, letting every single external signal just flood in. And when that happens, your own unique signal, your music, it just gets completely drowned out. You kind of lose yourself in everybody else's noise. Becky uses this incredible analogy to describe what it feels like to have those super rigid boundaries. All that trapped energy, the stress, the anger, it has nowhere to go. It just sloshes around inside you, causing chaos, and eventually even real physical symptoms. It's such a powerful image for what it feels like to be totally closed off. So, if being a fortress isn't the answer and being a wide open door isn't the answer, what is? Well, let's move on to the solution. This is how we build toward a much healthier state of being, and it all comes down to one final, beautiful concept from physics. And that concept is resonance. In physics, resonance is this amazing thing that happens when a wave is bouncing between two boundaries, and it reflects back in just the right way to constructively interfere with itself. Remember that? The peaks line up with other peaks over and over and over again, and it creates this huge multiplicative, amplifying effect. So the crucial thing to get here is that this isn't random. It's a very specific, fine-tuned process. The system has to be set up just right so that a wave's reflections build on each other perfectly. turning what might have been a tiny little vibration into something incredibly powerful. You know, the perfect real-world example of this is a radio antenna. An antenna is built to a very specific length for a reason. It's designed so that it will physically resonate with radio waves of a specific frequency. It's literally built to amplify the one signal it's looking for and to let all the other noise just pass by. And that brings us all the way back to us. The ideal state, the goal, isn't to have rigid walls or no walls at all. The goal is to create a system, you, that exists in a state of ideal resonance, a state where your boundaries are tuned just right to amplify the good stuff, your positive emotions, your authentic self, while letting all that other stuff, all the negative signals, just pass right through you and fade away. And maybe the best part of this whole idea is that this isn't some fixed state that you're just stuck with. According to Becky's notes, this is a system you can actually work on. By consciously adjusting your boundaries, by changing how you process things internally, you can literally tune your own resonance. Which really just leaves us with one final, powerful question to ask ourselves. When you think about your life, your relationships, your passions, what's being amplified inside of you? What signals are you tuned to pick up? In other words, what resonates with you?